Hey everyone, this is Evan Bookbinder, aka Bookie, from Shoot Again Pinball Repair outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, also with the Play Better Pinball streaming and podcast with Chris Stevens. So, I thought I'd do a little tutorial today on how to get direct video capture output from Jersey Jack pinball machines. We've been doing a lot of streaming lately, trying to improve the quality, and I'm trying to set up a rig here in my own basement. And one of the things that I think is important when streaming is to get the best video output possible. And Jersey Jack games are awesome, and not only do they provide a big full-colored, full-featured display on the back glass, but there's usually also a secondary display on the playfield itself. And if we were to capture both of those by pointing a webcam or video camera at those screens, particularly the playfield camera, really difficult to get good clarity and quality. You're shooting in an angle, you've got glare and reflections to deal with, so being able to provide and pull the direct capture of the video from the game itself to your computer for streaming, I think offers the best possible opportunity to provide the best quality stream. And there's certainly other uses for wanting to do this as well. So I've amassed some equipment, kind of ran it by what I consider one of the experts in the field, Carl D'Angelo, and he confirmed I think I've got what I need here. So we're going to kind of do this together, and hopefully this goes well. And we're going to use my Willy Wonka as the example. And we'll kind of go through what I feel are the necessary setup points, and then talk about some gotchas or things to consider when making your purchase and kind of planning this out. So my phone stinks, and I can't switch from selfie to other modes, so let me go grab it here off the tripod, and then let's do a little walkthrough here of what we've purchased. So again, we've got the main display here, and I've removed the playfield glass and lifted the playfield up into the half service position. Obviously, please take the balls out. And so what do we have to deal with here that we needed to make purchases for? Well, this game is pretty awesome. The Wonka Vision display is an HDMI in. And then the question always becomes, well, how do you remove or take out this large display? Because it's not intuitive. It's actually just held together by a couple really strong magnets. So if you put your hand behind like the top right corner, and you got to pull pretty hard, you'll break the magnet connection free. And you can see it's on a nice high quality swivel, and the large display also has an HDMI in. Great. If we follow that back to the computer, you'll see there's our HDMI input for the main display, or excuse me, output, and this is the HDMI output for the Wonka Vision. I have heard, I can't confirm because I haven't done any of these yet, but other Jersey Jack games may use like a DVI out to HDMI in on the display. So certainly take a gander at what you're working with, mainly in terms of how long of an HDMI cable you'll need. Depending on where the DVI changes to HDMI, that's where you need to put your splitter in. So the last thing we will need is a USB port. And thankfully, this game uses lots of them, but on Wonka anyways, I have a free one available here. And I need the USB port because that's how the HDMI splitters are powered. So we're going to use a USB hub to power those, and I need somewhere to pull those from. So on other games, it may be possible that none of these ports are free, and in which case, what do? Theoretically, you could probably disconnect any of these and just plug that into the hub. For me, if I ran into this problem, this is the USB cable I would probably use, and it's in the front of every game, and that's the USB dongle used to update the game code. Well, in the case of Guns N' Roses and Wonka with a recent update, you can now update the game code with Wi-Fi, which kind of renders that USB cable obsolete. So I would probably follow it back through the cabinet and see which port it connects to, and use that particular cable is the one I'm going to pull out and plug into the hub. Just knowing that that USB cable isn't really going to be used for anything. I'm not worried about impacting the rest of the game or where all these other USB cables go. Nice and easy, nice and clean. But in this case, Wonka is really the optimal scenario. So what did we purchase? So I got all of the stuff off Monoprice. I've used them for years. The name sounds like it's cheap stuff, but it's not. It's actually really high quality everything, camera, video, that sort of equipment, cabling. So, I buy all my camera gear and computers and stuff usually from B&H Photo Video out of New York City. Been using them for 2 decades. And cabling and auxiliary stuff, I tend to go with this company. And Carl D'Angelo is local to them, and he speaks highly of them as a physical store. So anyways, all this stuff came generally from Monoprice or Amazon if needed, in terms of the splitters and whatnot. So this is a 1x2 HDMI splitter. This is a metal, really nice construction, has some weight to it, and you can see it's USB powered there. The cable they give you is probably about 3 feet in length. So keep that in mind where we're going to mount these things. So all those are going to go into, this is a pretty inexpensive 4-port USB 3 hub, some 3M mounts to mount this stuff, and I'll go back there in a second to show you how I'm going to mount this, and then a couple short run HDMI cables that'll run from the splitter back to the display, and then we're going to need 2 substantially longer runs to go from the splitter, the secondary output, out to your computer. So again, what we're effectively doing is splitting the display output. So it comes out of the computer, it'll run to the splitter. From there, one will go back to the display so we can play the game normally. Same with Wonka Vision. And then the other output is going to go to your computer. So how and where do we run that longer cable is kind of the last question. So I'll probably mount the USB hub here. And then over to the left, we've got some room on the back plane, and I'll probably mount both HDMI splitters from there. So the 15-foot longer runs, we kind of have 2 options. We could go out the top, and there's usually a hole or 2 there for an auxiliary topper. You could run your cable out the top and down the back of the game. The other option, which is the one I'm going to use and prefer, is to use the existing access holes in the cabinet for the wiring. And you'll notice down in the back left and back right corner of the game, there's a nice size hole with some mesh plating over it, and held together by, guessing those look like about 1/4-inch nut driver screws. You can use a Phillips head as well. I'm just going to back out one of those screws to give this mesh some flexibility, run my cable down through there, and call it a day. And that way, when we're not streaming or whatever, the cable can just sit cleanly bundled up on the floor there. So ultimately, I don't think this is going to take too terribly long to do, but I'm going to put the video on pause while we get this kind of all going and cabled up, and hopefully this will work, and then I'll show you the end results. Wish me luck. All right, so we're back. This really only took a couple minutes. So I did make a couple modifications to where I ended up placing things. So I kept the USB hub directly below the computer, but just given the nice bulk HDMI cables I bought, it actually ended up being easier to bundle with the existing cable. So the main display splitter I mounted just to the right of the existing output, and the Wonka Vision splitter I mounted on the right side of the back box there. So, and here's what we've got. So again, for the main display, HDMI existing cable runs now into the input of our router, and the USB splitter plugs in just next to it. And then going out, we have our new blue 3-foot cable running to the existing HDMI input, and the 15-footer going down through the cabinet, through the wire mesh, which was actually a bit tougher material than I thought. So I had to remove 2 screws to bend it up. And then when I put it back together, I probably only screwed the screws back about 3/4 of the way, enough to provide some tension against the HDMI cable, but certainly not enough to stress it or perhaps even break the sheeting. So anyways, there's that side. And on the right side, the existing cable that went where the blue one is now the output that runs from the right side here down. I didn't touch any of this. It's all the existing cable to the Wonka Vision, except now it's an output coming out of the splitter. The other output, again, runs now through the lower right side of the cabinet. So that way I kind of know which HDMI cable's which. So left side main display, right side Wonka Vision, or the secondary display. And then, if you remember my purchases, I had some blue ones and some purple ones. The blues are 3-footers, the purples are 6. In fact, the 3-footer, one could argue, is maybe even a bit too long. So, again, it's going to vary from game to game, perhaps, but, you know, cables are cheap. I'd buy, you know, maybe a couple footers, a 3-footer, 6-footer, whatever. The one commonality is I'd suggest 15 feet would be a good run to give you enough distance to run out to your rig or computer, or if you're running a tournament, an auxiliary display, something to that end. So again, the input to the splitter comes out of the computer. So we can magnet close our display back into place here. And I've brought down my work computer monitor, and you'll see that we have 2 outputs. So that's awesome. So now I'm going to unplug that and take the secondary cable that came off the Wonka Vision and plug it in the same way. This will detect a signal. There you go. So there's our Wonka Vision display working in the game as normal. And there's Mike TV out on the computer. So this job is done. I now have 2 free cables, each providing direct output from Wonka's displays to whether it be a streaming rig, a tournament display, whatever you like. So the opportunities are there for sure. But you know, all in all, a fairly inexpensive mod. I will have in the description below the links to the items I purchased, but you're probably on the order, if I remember correctly, 30, 40, maybe $50, $60 per machine to get everything. But if you buy in bulk, if you got a couple Jersey Jacks, it's going to end up cheaper than that, because some of the HDMI cabling they do sell in 3-packs, and the HDMI splitters actually happen to be on sale at Monoprice for $17 a piece, which was a steal in my opinion. So again, $50, $60. With all the money people spend on crazy mods and things that really don't do anything to the game, I think this is a great investment. I'm looking forward to streaming this game, and I will go ahead and do the same for Guns N' Roses here next to it. So thanks for tuning in. We'll have another video coming up on how to effectively do the same thing for modern Sterns. Thanks for watching.